that title is in fact not entirely accurate because I didn't just drive a Porsche 911, I drove 4 different Porsche 911s. And also 2 different Cayennes, the Macan Electric, and a Taycan. So, I suppose we better get right into it. A couple of weeks ago, I was at the annual Porsche Roadshow. Every year, they organize a roadshow with the local dealership here in Macedonia. And as part of that, we get to drive and try out a few different models of Porsche to a certain scenic location about an hour away from my hometown, usually, or sometimes less. And this year, the main focus was the new 992.2 Porsche 911, which is the facelift of the current 992 Porsche 911, which was first revealed in 2018 and came along around 2019 or 2020. I have attended this before, so there's like 3 different versions of this event. There's one for the Porsche Club, there's one for potential and current clients, and there's also the media. And I was at the media event. Somehow they thought that I was a big bad member of the media to invite me to experience this sort of thing. I'm kidding, obviously, it's not my first time here, but it was my first time while being able to capture footage, and I have pretty much 2 hours of uninterrupted footage, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now. But I also wanted to relay my impressions of the new Porsche 911 and the other Porsche models and tell you what I think of them, because this was also my first time driving the new Cayenne as well, at least properly, as they say. So let's have a look. As I said before, there were 4 different 911s, and I will now take the time to explain to you the difference between each one. So the red car that you see, that's a Targa 4 GTS, so the new GTS with the T-hybrid system and the Targa body style. Then there's the blue car with the gray Spider RS wheels, that was a base 911 Carrera. Then the green car was a Carrera 4 GTS. And finally, the other blue car with the yellow brake calipers was a Carrera GTS. So that one's rear-wheel drive, the green one and the red one are all-wheel drive, and the other blue one is rear-wheel drive as well. And as I said, the blue one with the gray Spider RS wheels is a base Carrera, and I have to check my notes because it's difficult to keep up with Porsche 911 power outputs, as I'm sure you're all aware. I think that Porsche 911 owners still can't catch a break from all the jokes about how confusing the range is, and this is coming from somebody who kind of also understands the range. So the base Carrera has 394 horsepower, and all of them had the Sport Chrono package, so that means this Carrera does 0 to 100 kph in 3.9 seconds. Moving on, I can't find the GTS on Porsche's website. And the Carrera GTS derivatives have 541 horsepower, and they'll do 0 to 100 kph in 3 seconds, according to Porsche, with the Sport Chrono package, which all of these actually had. I know that doesn't mean a whole lot, so real quick, I'm going to explain what the T-hybrid system in the GTS cars actually is, and then we can move on to the driving experience itself. And also the full disclosure about this video, we'll get to that as well. So as explained by our wonderful instructors at the Porsche Roadshow, the Carrera T-hybrid, or rather the T-hybrid system in the Carrera GTS, is not a drive system at all. It cannot drive the wheels, and it cannot run on electric power by itself. Instead, the turbocharger is spooled up by an electric motor rather than exhaust gases, so it's basically another fancy way of saying that it's an electric turbo. In theory, it's supposed to make responsiveness and all of that more instantaneous than, say, a regular turbocharger would. And considering the rest of the 911 lineup uses conventional turbos, except obviously the GT3 and the like, because they're naturally aspirated, it was an interesting point of comparison. Not in this case, but I'll tell you why in a second. And finally, the full disclosure, I have driven these cars, but I have nothing to compare them to. I don't think I need to tell you that as a point of comparison, I can't compare the Porsche 911 to a Chinese SUV or an old Lexus, which is the stuff I usually deal with. Not complaining about that, just saying. The Porsche 911 is kind of an isolated experience for me. It's the only true, proper, extended sports car experience that I've had. So I'm only able to tell you what that's like. And also, I don't have a lot of experience with this sort of thing. So don't see this as an exhaustive guide on which 911 variant you should buy. This is just an enthusiast who's in the beginner phases of being a car journalist, experiencing the new Porsche 911 and relaying his thoughts on what it's like to drive. Okay? Are we clear on that? Good. So let's begin. As luck would have it, usually the way these sorts of things work is there's 2 people per car, and every 15-20 minutes or so, we change cars and drivers. But This time, I was in the car by myself, completely on accident, so as a result of that, I was able to drive all of the different 911 variations. So I did. And as the rotation also went, I got to start driving the 911s when the twisty stuff began. And the first one was the Targa 4 GTS. And, well, this is a fantastic car. I mean, I don't think I need to say that. It's kind of like a well-known thing to anyone who's driven the Porsche 911 that it's a fantastic car to drive, and it absolutely is a fantastic car to drive. This was my first time. I have driven the 911 before, but this was my first time driving it on this type of road, and what a fantastic experience. First of all, the 3.6 liter flat 6 in the GTS models revs to about 7,500 RPM, and it sounds absolutely glorious. The Targa 4 GTS feels very stable and planted, and it corners like it's nobody's business, perhaps unsurprisingly, and it accelerates very well and very eagerly, and the T-hybrid system seemed like a pretty great idea. So after the 15 or 20 minutes or thereabouts passed, I went over to the base 911 Carrera, and instantly I noticed the difference. Like, again, as I said before, I haven't really had much experience with this sort of thing, but even I could tell that there's a significant difference. As I mentioned before, the base Carrera that we had here was rear-wheel drive. And instantly, you could feel a tad bit more playfulness than, say, the Targa, which was all-wheel drive. It wanted to let loose a little bit more. Obviously, it didn't, because public roads and that, we can't disable stability control on these things. But it definitely felt like things were moving a lot more beneath your seat. Like, the car wanted to let loose and get the tail out a lot more than the others. More than likely that's because it's rear-wheel drive, but also because I feel as though the Carrera is set up to be a bit more playful and laid back. The others are more serious because all-wheel drive and super high-performance electric turbo and all that, whereas the base Carrera just wants the driver to have fun. And I think that was done intentionally, and even for someone like me, who hasn't had a lot of experience, it's very noticeable in the base Carrera. The thing that kind of surprised me is that I did not really notice a difference between the responsiveness, because remember, the base Carreras are also turbo, but they're not electric turbochargers like the GTS. And the base Carrera is just as eager to pick up speed, and it is just as responsive when you floor it as the base GTS, sorry. So I guess I have to be on the track to notice the real difference between the base Carrera and the GTS. But first of all, I think buying a Porsche 911 for the raw horsepower kind of misses the point. If you want that, you buy a Dodge Challenger Demon or what have you. But also, I suppose, again, you have to be on the racetrack to notice a huge difference in responsiveness and the benefits of having an electric turbo. Because as far as I'm concerned, the base Carrera did the job more than fine. And the base Carrera was the one I was really able to, kick the teeth out of, so to say. I'm terrible with these sorts of colloquialisms and figures of speech, but you know what I mean. I had the most fun with the base Carrera, is what I wanted to say, because the roads were dry and we really had an opportunity to open the taps, and it was fantastic. Then on the way back, I jumped into the green Carrera 4 GTS, so again, all-wheel drive. We took that one a little bit more slowly. There was a little bit of fun. It's a very competent car, even when you're not ragging on it the whole time. It just takes corners like it's nobody's business. And then when it was finally the turn of the rear-wheel drive GTS, the blue one with the yellow brake calipers, it started raining. And I was pretty much forced to drive it like a normal car. And I tell you what, the Porsche 911 is perfectly happy being driven as a normal car. It's supremely comfortable. I was genuinely surprised considering sports car and all that. It's very comfy and actually really nice to just cruise around in and take potholes and stuff. Audio system was great. One of the cars had the Burmester sound system, the rest of them had the Bose sound system. Because we got stuck in traffic and roadworks and stuff, I managed to connect CarPlay to this car, and this one had the Bose sound system, and it's fantastic. And, the whole thing that the Porsche 911 is one of the most daily drivable sports cars absolutely rings true here. Because it doesn't feel like it's trying to actively kill you every second. When you just let it relax at like 60, 70 kilometers an hour or so, depending on, the speed limit and what's going on. Perfectly fine, super settled. And that was my extended experience with the Porsche 911, the new Porsche 911. So I'm going to briefly touch upon the other Porsche vehicles that I drove here, and then we can wrap this up. So after the 911s, by this point we were already back on the highway, I went over to the base Cayenne E Hybrid. That one has the V6, and it has an electric motor. So e-hybrid coupe, that's 470 horsepower, and then there was also the gray car, that was the Cayenne S e-hybrid. That one has 519 horsepower. And there was also, the first one that I drove was the GTS. That's the 500 horsepower model, but that one has a 4-liter V8, a naturally aspirated V8. And it sounds absolutely glorious. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I actually did. It's very happy cruising on the highway at pretty high speeds. It's comfy, it's relaxed, it's nice to drive, it's responsive, and as far as the handling is concerned, it's the Porsche of SUVs. I know that's a cliche, but it absolutely is. Like, it can hold its own on tight technical corners as well. I didn't really drive it on the technical corners. It was more like a big winding stretch of highway that went from to the left or to the right, but even then it was very impressive. As for the GTS, it was only like a straightaway, so not a lot of corners with that one, but I thoroughly enjoyed the sounds of the V8. And that leaves the last two, the Taycan and the Macan Electric, which I haven't driven before. I have driven the Taycan before, and it's fast, and that's really about it. It's not particularly exciting. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the Taycan is especially exciting, because other than the speed, once you've experienced it a couple of times, tad bit dull. And as for the Macan Electric, I'm kind of disappointed. The one that we drove was I believe it was a 4S, so about 470, 480 horsepower, that variant. And when I floored it on the highway, I was like, that's it. It didn't feel particularly fast, and it certainly wasn't very exciting. And I understand that both of those cars attract a different type of buyer, but I don't really see the appeal all that much. If you do, that's fine. The Taycan looks awesome, and it's fast, and it's impressive, don't get me wrong. It's just, you know, if I'm sitting behind the wheel of a $350,000 car with a Porsche badge and 900 horsepower, I expect to be a little more stirred than just impressive, but not all that impressive. And that's about it. Excellent experience, and the new Porsche 911 is absolutely lovely, and I really want one. That's going to be about it for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of the new Porsche 911, if you've driven it or whatever, in the comments below. Follow me on Blue Sky and follow the community tab for upcoming videos, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.